Anything else before we get into more hands-on and details? Okay, Blair, you want to pick up? So I covered the high level. Blair gets to tell you the real nuts and bolts.
All right, thanks for everybody coming. Appreciate you taking the time this evening to learn more about renewable energy. I want to thank Jack and Seeds for doing everything that they do, because it really makes it simple for us. We just show up and bring some junk with us, and like the advertising and everything has been taken care of. I mean, I just sent my slides to show to Jack, and he went through it and put it in combination with his, so they really take a lot of the burden off of us to do something like this, and they also do more than just this. They do promote a lot, and it's a great partnership, I guess. Yeah, partnership. So officially say that. But yeah, so tonight what we're going to be looking at, it's 7:45, so if you have to get up, go to the bathroom, and want more coffee, if I'm boring you, please get up and go. I don't mind anyone getting up. If you have a question, just throw up the hand, and I'll be happy to answer it. We've been doing this since about 2008 is really when we started first taking classes on solar. There's me, my father, my brother. My brother Bill's back there. He's in the bright orange shirt. 2008, originally plumbing, heating, electrical contractors. Learned from my father and also took our own classes. But since 1984, we've been doing plumbing, heating, electric, and then eventually branched out into the renewable energies, because that's what all of our customers want. We want this. What about this? What about solar panels? And Seeds had contacted us and said they were doing some classes if we were interested, and we said sure, and we've been doing it ever since. So, also back there is Gabriel Cook sitting next to my brother. He's the guy that we just hired about a month ago. We realized that we were turning customers away, so we really needed a handsome face for the company, and that's why we brought him. He doesn't know anything, but we brought him. No, he's an electrician. He does real well, and he's here learning just like all of us are. So tonight we're going to look at site and sizing. Just looking at your, go over a little bit what Jack talked about. Applying for the permit. That's kind of the headache. That's the pain in the butt part of things, because you just dealing with utility companies is kind of frustrating, because they just always happen to lose your paperwork, even though you keep sending it exactly where they tell you to the exact person with the correct title, and it's just, they're frustrating. We'll leave it at that. And then once we apply and stuff, like as far as the order of events in terms of, say you come to me tomorrow night and say, here's my system, I want to put up 20 panels, here's my layout, I want to order this, then we'll go ahead and you'll be applying for the interconnection and the permit. And once you have those approved, permit with your township, permit with your community, if there is one. Some townships don't require a permit, but you still do need to get an electrical inspection for those areas. And then the interconnection paperwork, once that's all settled, this is what we do as a business. We don't order anything until everything's been approved. We've never had them disprove something, but we just never want to order $20,000 or $30,000 worth of equipment and then say, oh, by the way, we don't want to use that panel. You never know. It's never happened, but we like to take that precaution. Then we'll order the equipment. That usually takes about a week and a half to come in. The interconnection and stuff, we usually tell our customers about a month for that. So then you have a month, and you have about a week and a half for the equipment to come in, and then you just pick, after that you do the installation. You pick whatever sunny days you have, whatever strip of sunny days, whatever free labor you can bum off your neighbor or your brother-in-law. Great, do that. Installation of a typical system. Well, actually, Jamie, how long did it take you to do your, I think you had 14 panels or 14 panels?
14 panels, yeah.
And how long did it take you to do that last year?
I did a bunch of it in fits and starts myself, but then when we got to the point of putting on the panels, there was a nice crew of guys that came over and we whipped it up in an afternoon, yeah.
Yeah. So usually for us, if we're doing, say, a 5 kilowatt system, which would be about 20 panels, we'll go there and just one guy in a day can get all the feet set and all the rails set. And it's nice just to have one person sitting there thinking everything through, not rushing, worrying about people sitting down waiting for them to finish. One day you can get all your rails up, and then the next day is real simple. You put your inverters on, and then run some wires and put your panels across them while someone else is down on the ground wiring up into the utility company. But 5 to 10 kilowatts, usually about 2 days, maybe 3 days, if it's a little bit larger of a system to do. And then the electrical inspection comes after your installation, after you're real proud of what you did, and you sit back and have a couple drinks looking at it as the sun goes down. Call the electrical inspector. They're really good with working with you. What's the most important thing that you look for as an electrical inspector?
Grounding bonding.
Grounding and bonding. That's first thing they're going to do is look up on your roof and make sure it's bonded with number 8 wire at least. So we'll get into that a little bit. But that's the most important thing is the grounding and bonding is really the safety of the whole system. If there's something that goes wrong and you have a wire that touches a piece of metal and all of a sudden that metal is live and you don't know what happened and you go up there to work on it and all of a sudden you get electrocuted and fall off your roof, that's not the greatest thing you want to claim on your homeowner's insurance. So after that inspection, and then the inspector will come, sign off on a cutting card, and that's all the paperwork the utility gives you, and then you'll send that away. And usually it takes again about a week if you're on top of the utility company for them to approve it, and then you get to turn your system on. So once your township or community or whatever those permits were that said you could put it up, once they approve of it, and you go ahead and then the utility company, you can go ahead and turn your system on.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention is, one of the things that Blair offers as part of this experience is if you want to buy a system and to install yourself, he will put together a kit of the equipment and get it to order. No requirement that you do so. You can get it from anywhere, but he's offered to help put orders together, buy a little more in bulk. And so if people want to do that, don't need to say yes or no by tomorrow, but we will probably need to set a deadline in the next couple of weeks if you want to get in on an order in the short time. Just make sure we have your name and number, and the approval cycle will help you with, but then being in the order is important.
And if you want to do a ground mount, or if you have a metal roof or anything like that, it's not a big deal. We can work with you and just tell me how many panels you want, how big a system, and where it actually is all going to be laid out. I think Jamie last year came to my shop and had a little sketch of it and said, this is what my roof looks like, this is where I want to put my panels, and we ordered it for them, and actually they ended up shorting you some pieces that we had shipped right to your
It was great though. I mean, you just had everything there. You just put together like Tinker Toys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So Jamie, you want to add any more comments about the experience since you did it last year?
Oh, well, no, this seminar is great. It sets you up for it. It's anyone that wants to do it, I can tell you, it's definitely doable. If you feel like crawling up on the roof and putting the racks on.
Yeah. Pete's done 2 systems,
I put in 2 systems, one roof and one ground mount. And
right?
like Jamie says, you get the pieces, you just put them together.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, the support system, I have a roof where probably the proper angle won't be a thing, like laying the parallel to the top of the roof. Can you approximate the angles?
You can if you want. Typically, I suggest against that, because if you say you have 2 rows of panels and you tilt this bottom row up to capture more sunlight, well then all of a sudden that's going to be casting a shadow on your next panel. So then you have to space that off the roof here, space that away, and then aesthetically it just doesn't look right. I think we've done 2 tilted systems. One, that's what the lady wanted to get maximum angle and all that stuff out of each panel. The second one, the guy didn't like his neighbors. It was actually what it was. Is he really didn't like his neighbors and said, I don't care what it looks like up there. They've got to look at it, I don't. So it's okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing that. If this is what you want, we'll do it. But
Yeah, so if you do a non-flush system, you also got to worry extra about wind loading. And so it's just extra calculations you have to do, and it's not worth it in most cases. Around in this area, a 20-degree tilt up to maybe a 30-degree tilt is the optimum for year-round production. Maybe if you're at a higher tilt, you get a little less snowfall sticking to it in the winter, but you get actually a better production from the sun being in the sky in the summer.
And I'll just go, sorry.
Relative to the planning and whatnot, you know, it's an issue of having licensed contractors, so like electrical work and plumbing work. Is there any issue like that involved here? As far as doing yourself?
Usually if you're working on your own home, they can't stop you from doing that. If you have a two-family commercial home that you're trying to put solar up on, then yeah, they'll you know, that's a commercial building, it's not your personal home. By code is usually how they phrase that, so you should be able to do your own wiring and your own roof stuff and all that.
What kind of a snow load can those panels do?
Snow load, they could, not quite sure what the actual
Each
snow
panel
load
is huge in terms of itself structurally, because it's a very nice aluminum frame with glass on it. And we should say that usually the issue is the roof itself taking extra weight, but these are about 3 pounds per square foot. So that's almost nothing compared to the snow load we get in this area.
Yeah, if your roof can take the snow load, then the panel's definitely above and beyond anything. Like I said, 3 pounds per square foot, usually at about 30-ish degrees is where it tends to shed the snow easily. Once the sun comes out, heats it up. But they are really durable. You could lay across them, and I mean, you could walk on them if you want. We don't suggest that because that does affect the silicon underneath. But if there was a large array and I had to replace the one in the middle, I would lay out plywood pieces across them so I disperse my weight and I go and get it. But I mean, it could definitely take that load.
They show pictures and videos on manufacturer sites will show people shooting 1-inch hail at it and no impact.
Yes.
You talked about wind.
Wind, yes. Wind is, I think they're rated, most of them are rated for over 100 miles an hour, and that's really not the panel itself, as far as things coming off your roof, that's more the rating of your flags holding it down. I think our wind,
It's only 90 or 95 in my class.
yeah, and that's like worst case scenario, but yeah, we're like 125 mile an hour wind gusts,
We live on a couple of mountains, and it's very windy.
Yeah,
On the hottest day of the year, there's a breeze.
Yeah, you'll see pictures online of people that live in hurricane areas that you'll see their entire roof laying on the ground and all the panels are still attached nicely and orderly, so,
So that's nice to know.
yeah.
Yes. When it's time to replace your roof, your shingles, do you have to go back to the same process of, with permits and everything of having it reinstalled?
I've never had that question before, but I wouldn't think so. It's already up, it's already running, and I've already applied for it, they know what's going on, so it's just a matter of getting everything taken off, new roof, putting everything back on, so.
Yeah, so if you are thinking about it, look at the age of your roof, and if your shingled roof is more than 5 years old, or certainly more than 10, you might want to think about not doing it now, waiting until you get a new roof, or replacing the roof first. Certainly if it's more than 15 or 20 years old, it's going to be time anyway.
Yes.
You had mentioned before that even twigs and things like that could affect the production of the electricity. What happens if you have like an ice storm and that coats that?
Ice is probably, when you get that like freezing rain that hits it and sticks to it, that's probably the worst thing you'll actually face. I mean, snow is bad, but a lot of times that'll come off or you can pull it off. Ice is probably the worst to try to get off. It still will produce through the ice, but it's not going to be producing like crazy. That's one of those things when, you know, if a customer has that issue, or they have a really tall roof where they're not going to pull the snow off with a slope, with a shallow pitch. We just don't really, you don't really want to even worry about December, January, February, because you really don't produce all that much anyway. It's
Yeah.
not something, I mean, anything you get in those months is really like fantastic, that's great, be happy for it, and if you don't get anything at all, then it's just kind of one of the things you have to deal with if you don't have access to pulling it off.
And I think it was 3 years ago, during one of those long winters, really hard winters, I had a 2-week period where I had no production, it's icing. And I have a 45-degree slope. So it happens, and it's just one of those things you discount your production.
Any other questions?
Do you
Yes.
have any of these barn roofs,
Barn roofs, yes.
metal roofs?
These, actually, we don't even have a job sitting in our shop at this time. It was, my brother brought it up yesterday, he said, what panels are we gonna use for the demonstration? Usually we have jobs coming in as we order them, and it's like, we don't have anything in our shop right now, so we had to take these off it's an old pavilion that was converted to a stable that is now a welding shop in Beach Lake. So if you drive by there, it's missing 2 of its panels, you'll know where they're at. But yeah, we took them off of a barn roof we've done, I'm gonna say 3 barn roofs?
She's asking like metal roofs.
Yeah, old metal barn roofs, yeah.
Yeah.
And these are those kind of old metal
Yeah.
barn roofs, but yeah. Barns, as far as not looking aesthetically pleasing, we have one in Lebanon Township that is a horrible, horrible roof. But when you put the panels on there, there is some give to them so you can get a nice straight line, or at least somewhat straight of a line, and it actually makes the, accentuates the bow in the barn roof after you get a nice level set of panels up there, so. But yes, you can put them on a barn roof.
And metal roofs, both standing seam and the shallow seams, so we'll talk about
I'm gonna put the next slide.
that. Okay.
So, site sizing, just measure a couple times. Things you want to look for is, are chimneys going up, satellite dishes, roof windows, skylights. So, if you have a stainless steel chimney from your wood stove that goes up right here and comes up 3 feet, it wouldn't be a good idea to put panels right up tight close to it. It'd be good to go around it. Measure it a couple times, and then also give yourself a little room for error, especially around skylights and everything. If you have any, say, roof vents that are coming through the roof, 3-inch sewer vents, or if you have an older house, 2-inch or 1.5 even. If you have a PVC or even a steel roof vent, well, it should be coming up at least 2 feet if it's by today's standards. Well, if that's gonna hurt your actual solar array, the whole reason it's up 2 feet is to account for the snow load, so that way you can still vent your plumbing system in the event of 2 feet of snow. Well, what we do is we just cut them off and put the panel over it, because it can still vent then, and it will never get plugged up with anything or covered with snow, because everything will be fine. That's about the only other thing you'd have to worry about. And then, of course, trees. Like Jack said, if there's some sort of shading on here, your electricity is running through all of these cells on there's 3 fine little lines going through each of these cells. Well, if there's a tree branch that's covering this panel, all of a sudden, even if it's just these 3 rows, well, each of these panels are going, or each of these cells are zigzagging back and forth, so that's slowing down, if you want to think of it that way, slowing down the electricity, and it doesn't push through as fast. And in the way we have it, it just slows down this panel, because this panel has an inverter behind it, and that's where it's changed to DC, or to AC, sorry. Let me just pause for a second and just point out the system again, that for us, we tend to talk quickly about these things, but we realize that, not everyone's familiar with these systems. So the thing that's going to capture energy is your solar panel. This is the fanciness of everything that people see and understand. And then it's really simple. On the back of the leads, there's just 2 little leads. There's a positive and negative, which means it's making electricity in DC, direct current. And here on the back of it, you can see this little box, and you have 2 wire leads, and that's it. Not anything high-tech or fantastic, but that's what people see and that's what people want. But realistically, the brains of the operation is here. This is what is referred to as a microinverter. This takes the DC electric. These 2 leads plug into the side here, except this inverter would actually be under the panel, but I left it out here so you can see. And then from there, the DC is changed to AC, and then we have another lead here that plugs into a trunk cable, which just has multiple leads that are spaced every 40 inches because your panels are 65 tall by 40 wide. So that way each inverter plugs into here, and then this is all AC electric. And that's why working with these microinverters is a lot easier, because all of a sudden you're not working with DC inside the home, and it just throws out a whole bunch of other codes that you would have to worry about if you were working with DC. So, you get a panel, electricity goes to here, then to your trunk cable. Usually you come into a junction box, PVC junction box. If you're doing just one string of panels, a small one like this is fine. If you're doing multiple ones, get a little bit larger one. You know, any of the electrical supply houses have these. Yeah, so here's your junction box. What you do is drill it with a liquid type connector for the side of it, or preferably the bottom side of it. Come into there, make your connection, and then drill out the back and go through the roof that way. With that, you would cut a piece of butyl rubber. If you want to write that down, BHEUTLY. There's an H in there somewhere, I think. Anyway, you can go right through the roof if you have a shingled roof. If you have a standing seam metal roof, we prefer to wrap the side of the soffit, because if you penetrate that roof, that voids the warranty. There are mounting ways, which we'll show you in a second, on how to mount it on a standing seam metal roof where it doesn't penetrate the roof and doesn't void your warranty. And last thing we want is 10 years later you have an issue with your metal roof and they come back and say, well, there's a hole in it, we're not doing anything. So from here, your connection in here can just be running it through your home, can just be a piece of 12-3 Romex. And per set of these, I think end phase is probably what you'll get. End phase is, I think, 17 per string, 15 per string. Okay, these are 17 per string, but yeah, you'll be doing, you can do as much as 15 panels on one run of 12-3. So then from there, that if you're doing this one set, you can bring that 12-3 down and go through a auxiliary production meter. We suggest that you definitely do this for just monitoring reasons, interconnection reasons, and then also if you're doing the S-tracks that you need. If you're doing those renewable energy credits that Jack talked about, that's what you need to have your own meter so you can take a picture of it and monitor it that way. And then from there, this meter can be outside, inside, in your basement, usually next to the electric panel is where we normally install it. And then from wherever that is, you have to have an outside AC disconnect for the utility company. And that it could just be a cheap, $10 disconnect you buy at Home Depot. That's so in the event that the power goes out and these inverters don't shut off in 1/1500th of a second to not backfeed the grid, that the utility company, if they wanted to, they could always pull your meter or pull your disconnect and work on the lines and then plug it back in.
Or you have a fire and the firefighters want to make sure it's disconnected, de-energized, they can pull it, which is why it has to be located near your electric.
Yeah. Which doesn't quite make sense because usually they just pull the meter anyway, and that would shut off the power too. So, and then from there you would go inside. This is just a different disconnect. Inside to your electric panel, and then you just put in a double 20 breaker on your electric panel, whatever brand that is. You have to pick that up and make sure you have room for it. Because then in the bottom right or left corner of that panel is where you want to put it. And there's some labels and stuff you got to put on some of this stuff, but we can talk about that tomorrow night. Yes?
Can any of that be installed in the exterior? I have no room in the panel. I had it set up for backup generators, and I just filled the panel completely.
Okay.
And everything's all brand new construction. I'm not really crazy about cutting into all new walls or whatever. And any of these, the part that's supposed to go in the meter, can a separate meter be put in for that outside of the home or in a crawl space? Or does it have to be?
All this stuff can go outside as long as it's weather rated. So you could do everything you want, weather rated, except maybe tie them into the electric panel, which you could even get around that by doing what's called a line side tap, and that's tying into, you can tie it right to the electric meter itself. You just have to get approval for that.
Oh, good. Okay.
Most of the time, they only allow you to do that. I shouldn't say only allow. Most of the time, you do that when you have a system over like a 7 kilowatt system. So if you do a larger system, by code, you can't backfeed too much into the panel, like you have the utility company putting in 200 amps into the panel too.
Right,
So,
it's a brand new panel, I don't want to change the panel, because I have no breakers left.
Yeah, that's fine. If in the event you do multiple rows of 15 panels or 10 panels or whatever it is, if you do multiple strings from the roof, you want to put in, before you tie it into your electric panel, you would want to put in a sub panel for the solar, actually to combine everything from that sub panel. Then you would go into into your meter and then out to the disconnect and then into the utility. So that's just so there's only one spot for the utility company to pull a disconnect. They don't have to throw open an outside panel and start hitting all these breakers, making sure they have everything. They just want one disconnect with one sticker that says photovoltaic disconnect, and they don't want to have to think about it. Actually, I don't blame them. There's enough to think about when someone's house is on fire. So
5 kilowatt system, then, what were you saying, how many subsystems?
5 kilowatt system would be 20 panels, so you'd probably have 2 strings.
How many?
Two strings of 10 would be how I do it.
And that would be the rating of 20 amps each.
That might be 10 each at 29, you're probably at, yeah, that would still be.
And how do the individual inverters tie into the main AC bus?
They all tie in because they're all clipped together with this trunk cable. And then this combines all, say if there's a row of 10 here.
Yeah, so there's one of the steps in your application, both usually for the municipal permit and for the utility interconnect, is a one-line electrical diagram. And so we've got an example here.
Yeah, let's, we'll get to the mounting later. We'll just keep with the paperwork because that's the not so fun part, but I want to talk about it a little bit tonight, or a good amount tonight, and then more so again tomorrow, because that's the thing you're going to have most questions on. Like Jamie said and Pete said, it kind of all just goes together. You just can look at it and put it together kind of like Legos. So the installation part is actually probably the easiest. The paperwork is the pain, but he just showed a one-line diagram. Here's another bigger diagram. There's a space shift.
How do we get to
That's
that?
a job we did.
That's the one line. And
That's
there's
the one line. It just shows your panels. Here's a 3-line more intricate. PV panel like I don't believe Penelec requires a 3-line either.
Unless it's commercial.
Commercial, yeah, if you're getting commercial. Shows your inverter, or your panels, your inverter, panel inverter, one per, and then you just have your power going through a sub panel, and then going into your main service, and then out through there. They don't actually show that utility interconnection, or your utility grade auxiliary production meter, which if you want to do a system through me, I mean, I've got no problem doing your own system or ordering your own stuff. But what we'll do is basically all your roof stuff until you get to this junction box, and then everything else out past that you can pick up at electrical supply house. Except we will give you that auxiliary production meter because they're kind of a pain to find and order, and then also all your stickers that you need to slap on the different junction boxes. But yeah, that's a more intricate one. Here's a simple basic. You have a whole string of panels, inverters. Here's a junction box of the PV array. Here's your auxiliary production meter, and then into the disconnect, which is outside, and then into your main panel, and then your main panel to your utility. And it could be even less complex than that. Yes.
Suppose you have a future notion of increasing your panel size or your array size, and you start out with 14 panels or maybe a 5-phase system, and you're thinking that later you add to it. Does it make sense to plan that out, and would you then get permits for the larger one, and then you could go ahead and do that whenever you wanted to, or you have to do it step by step?
If I were to do only a partial system at first, and I knew I was going to add to it, I would wire everything up to the utility based on the largest system. And then at my sub panel where I'm bringing, say, 2 strings in for now, I'll just make sure I have enough room for 2 more strings later. But once you do one system, then you have to reapply for those things. You have to reapply with your township and your the utility and let them know that you're adding to the system.
Thanks.
So, of course I gotta say that, we're gonna inspect it right here.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but yeah, that's the way you have to do it is let them know, because they wanna know what you're actually backfeeding into the grid and all that. Yeah. Yes. When you apply with the utility company, they don't care about the panels, they don't care about the racking, they don't care about anything but that one-line diagram, a little sketch of what's gonna be happening on your property. You just take a little pen and pencil and, draw your house and point to south and right where your utility meter is, where the disconnect's gonna be, where the solar panels are, and where the inverters are. They have a whole bunch of information that they wanna know about just the inverter. There are spec sheets that your inverter will come with, it'll come with, but before that in your permitting process, you just Google whatever inverter we're gonna be doing, which will probably be Enphase, and then it'll come up with the Enphase 215, and it'll say every little bit of information that's on there is what they're gonna wanna know. You just plug that in, and your nearest crossing street, your utility meter number, and your billing account number, and that's really, really it. It looks pretty devastating at first when you look at all those numbers they're asking for if you don't have an electrical background, but it's scary, but they make it real simple. It's all right there. So there's one of them, yeah. And all those numbers there, you probably need a dozen of them. So don't, you just have to kind of look and fill in the blank.
Yes.
Is there anything extra you have to do if you mentioned before, if you have a generator, the inverters will know that it's not clean signal, clean sine wave, but what if you have an inverter generator, like a Honda 7000, E7000?
Oh, like a sine wave generator?
Like that.
Still shouldn't turn on.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay. So you don't have to do anything special?
no. And then you apply, basically for the community, you say, okay, what paperwork do I need for the community? They have some pretty impressive sheets that you really only have to fill out the electrical part of it, and just give them everything you can. Just print out a little front and back cut sheet of your racking, the same thing that you applied to the utility company with, all that information, like a site plan and a one-line diagram. Give that to your township. Print out a spec sheet on your panels, if you want to print out a spec sheet on your actual mounting, so that way they know how it's going to be fastened to the roof. And just as much information as you can give them, the more comfortable they feel approving this stuff, because it's still relatively new for some people, some places, so it's not, they just want to make sure they have a whole list of everything you're doing, and they can look through it at their own time. Yeah, and then Jack said some fees vary. Some places, again, no permit at all. Some are 1.5%, which is kind of stinks if you're doing a $50,000 solar array for someone's house and they want to give them their 1.5%, but that's what it is. Okay, so you've been approved. Now what? Okay, at least 2 weeks in advance. If you're doing one of these systems and you want to order it through me, even if you don't want to install it until September, at least, give me an idea, let me know. That way I can kind of put it on my radar, because that's July, August, September, when we start getting busier and busier before the winter, trying to get everything we can done. And, if you call me on Monday, I might not be able to get to ordering until the following Monday, and that could put you back even further. Just keep that in mind. And then, tractor trailer delivery. So you tell me wherever you want to deliver it, and I'll have, we like to order everything from one manufacturer. That way, if 5 years from now you have a problem with a part, which I don't think we've had issues with that in any of our installation, I'm not trying to look through all these different invoices. I can just say, okay, this is the distributor. Let's get a warranty through them, and it's liftgate service. So then we order a liftgate, so that way I don't think many of us have forklifts running around our backyard, so that way it drops everything right there, or can lower it, you can roll everything in the back of the pickup truck if you want to meet the driver somewhere too. So. Tools needed, whole bunch of lists there. You can see the tools we have. Your ladder to get on the roof, a safety harness and a line. Not that we really use those that much unless we're in some pretty dicey roofs, metal seat roofs. But chalk line, cordless drill, cordless impact wrench. I mean, this is what we use to install. Ratchet and socket set, a flat bar, hammer, pencil, some of those, tire crayons that they have for like auto body shops and stuff like that, and tire shops, they have these big, nice fat crayons. Tape measure, hammer, saw, caulk gun, and a voltmeter. So you want to be testing voltage after everything's installed. You want to go through and make sure everything's connected. So that's pretty much it. Miscellaneous equipment that you're going to have to pick up is outdoor zip ties. Those are the black zip ties to wire everything up nice. So the sign of a good solar job is when you sit down, or when you stand up, I guess, and look up the roof, but from underneath the panel, all you should see is the panel, the rail, and maybe a couple black bands on it, just of the zip ties holding the wires up off the roof, because by code, they shouldn't be touching the roof at all. So you wire tie them up, and they don't want to see like a big bow scraping the roof, because that'll eventually wear through, and it just doesn't look good. I mean, how many people are going to say, oh, it's, having a barbecue at your house and say, oh, nice solar array, and then come up and say, oh, that looks like crap, No one's going to look for that, but it is a good thing to do, especially, if they're loopy, that's okay, but just as long as they're not touching the roof is the code. Just some caulk and silicone. If you're doing a shingled roof, the only thing you'll have to pick up is some stainless steel lags. Again, Durham, Home Depot. What you want by code is, for our area, at least 2.67 inches of thread into your roof rafter. So typically, if you have one layer of shingles with 5/8 sheathing, then you're looking at about a 3 1/4, 3 and something. If you do the math, we just put a 3 1/2 inch lag in, and then call it good. If you have 2 layers of shingles, then go something a little bit longer, 4 inches, 5 if you want to be real sure, but 3 1/2 and above is really fine. The other things you have to pick up would be a ground rod. One thing we didn't talk about yet was the bonding of the system, but bonding all the metal together and then running that bond wire down to its own ground rod and then tying it into your existing ground. And that's just crimping your number 8 ground wire onto your existing ground for your house. Weatherproof junction box, call 3. Conduit if you want to run it on the exterior, and your circuit breakers, the AC disconnect switch, and then the meter base. So those are things we kind of went through. And I think did we print out these slides last year so they have them, or do you post them on the website?
We put them on the website, and we have the video too. So.
Yeah. So if there's anything that you don't catch, or and also too, any of this stuff that when the stuff first comes in. So you go with the system, the stuff first comes in, and you're all ready to go install it. Don't start ripping open the boxes and, just look at everything first. Say, okay, I've got an Eco-Fasten roof mounts. Go on YouTube, watch a 5-minute video, and you'll be a pro. Same thing with Unirack racking, the inverters. They'll all go through and show you all these different installation videos to just kind of get it in your head, and that would remind you, oh, I still need to get my lag bolts. I forgot to get my lags. These are 5/16 lags that we use. I didn't mention that. If you use a skinnier lag, then you need to go a little bit deeper, but 5/16 is what we use. And next slide. Any questions on that so far? No. So, you're going to do the installation itself. to the roof. These are a little bit longer than 3.5 inches, but this is what we had when I could grab it after work today. All this is just a piece of tin, and there's a little rubber washer that's fastened to this with a little bit of a hill where the hole is, and that little bit of a dimple fits right into this piece here. The recess is right in there, so that keeps a lot of the water from going in. And if there's any water that tries to make it in from the top, there's a washer here that has rubber on the bottom of it that seals that upper hole. If there's any type of water that somehow climbs up against gravity and goes down in, that covers that. And then you just have your flag bolt with a stainless steel washer that goes through what's called an L-foot. So all this stuff goes together and then gets tightened down into your roof. So first thing you're going to do is take a tape measure, and when you mount your system, your panels are going to be about 65 inches tall. So the rails themselves aren't right out at 65 inches. The rails themselves are about 12 to 15 inches from top and bottom. So aesthetically, as you look at your roof, you'll take your big tire crane or Sharpie or a nice big pencil, your kid's sidewalk chalk, whatever you want to use, and then mark, okay, this is where my panels, find the center of your house, assuming you have a perfectly clear roof. You find the center of your array, wherever you want to put it, and then measure out to the two ends, and then just kind of mark out where your roof's going to be. And then measure in from those areas, say 15 inches, this one's at 12, this one's at 13. So this is where my top panel is going to be. You usually want to start with your top row. Measure down 12 to 15 inches, and then mark that, and then mark the distance out you want. So here we're going to have two panels. If we were putting this system up, okay, we have two panels wide. I just measured 12 to 15 inches down, 12 to 15 inches up. I found where I want to put my actual rails themselves. And then we want to put our last L-foot no more than 12 inches away from the end of where the panel stops. Because any more than that, the panel tends to get a little wobbly and it's just not good structurally. So I want to make sure my last L-foot ends within 12 inches of the end. So what does that mean? That means you can overhang your roof a little bit if you want to overhang the eaves. Pennsylvania doesn't have any code for firefighters or anything like that in order to get on the roof and work. So you're shaking your head no? Nothing?
No, I'm shaking the fact that they don't have.
Oh, yeah.
For us to go.
Yeah, I just shaking his head no. I'm like, maybe I'm wrong on that. But yeah. So I think California is really the only one that mandates the whole state to have 4 feet around it and have pathways in between. But
They tell us not to touch it anyway.
yeah, don't touch it, it's scary. So you can overhang the end of your roof too. A lot of times we'll put a solar array lower to the roof and leave the peak open. That way when the snow does shed, it doesn't shed and it just plop right, 5 feet up your roof and then cause ice to back up. So a lot of times we'll just keep that going, but again, you don't want to overhang it if you have gutters or something like that where that eliminates or defeats the purpose of the gutters. So once you actually go ahead and lay out your roof, or lay out where it is and where you want your rails to be, then you got to find your roof rafters, because they will dictate if you have to shift your array to the left a little bit or to the right. A lot of times you have a barn roof, it's like 30-inch spacing, 32-inch spacing. I'm sorry, 30-inch spacing. Most of our roofs are, unless it's a really, really old building, are 16 on center, 24 on center. So what you do is you can either go in the attic if you have access to the attic, measure it out and try to get your best guess for where the roof rafter is, and then drill a pilot hole up if you're still not confident, because that will be covered by your flashing itself. Or if you're good with roofs and you have a hammer, which I don't have here, is tap on the roof itself, and if there's a rafter right here, if I tap here in this hollow spot, a lot of times you'll hear that, excuse me, difference of sound will be very hollow, and it'll get really solid here. And if I hit here, you'll see a lot of these little pebbles shaking down the roof, but then they won't shake any more past that line, so that gives you kind of a good idea about where you're at. So we know where we want to be horizontally, and we find our first roof rafter. And, you know, say my roof rafter was, the last roof rafter I had was here, well then I'd have to kind of shift my array just a little bit that way to make up for that. But you find your roof rafter, pry out the shingles with a flat bar, and then this actually gets tucked up and underneath the upper layer of the shingles. So you pry up the roof, tuck it up underneath, and then where your actual roof rafter is, you're going to actually drill a pilot hole first with a, depending on what diameter light you get, with this low pistol drill. Cordless drill works nice. The hole you want to drill is 7/10 the diameter of the lag, which simply means you have to get a micrometer out, measure that. No, you don't have to get a micrometer out. What you do is you hold up the lag, and then you see the threads that go around the lag, and then you see the actual shaft of the lag, and then if you pull up the, when you pull up the actual drill bit, you pass it behind the lag shaft should cover your bit, just barely cover your bit, and that's what you know is roughly 7/10 of your lag hole. Okay. So you find out where it's going to be. You hit it with a hammer. A lot of times, we'll just take a nice sturdy nail and lift up the shingle and punch a hole above the tar line just to make sure we're in that stud, in that roof rafter. Or you could just drill the roof itself up underneath, and you'll be able to tell if you're drill, and then it just plumps right into the roof, you missed. Or sometimes you can be able to tell if it shoots off at an angle that you're right on the side of it. Because even though they're 16 on center, 24 on center, they're still not completely perfect. So you drill and find that first rafter that you want to run off of, and then you want to go ahead and verify your next rafter. Usually we place these L feet 48 to 54 inches apart, depending on how your roof lays out. And then on your next one, you want to make doubly sure that you are, you know, if you don't have access to your attic, you can tell that, yes, okay, these are 48 or 24 on center, or they're 16 on center, by verifying that next one for sure, with the hammer, with the nail, with all that. And then once you get that idea, then you could string a chalk line out, snap a line, string a chalk line out, snap a line, and snap them vertical as well. And that gives you a nice little grid to work off of to do your system.
Talk about how it differs.
What's that?
Metal roofs?
Metal roofs, they differ a little bit. You can get rid of all this fancy stuff. The same butyl that you're going to put underneath your junction box is if it's just a regular rippled metal roof. Just cut a piece of butyl that goes just a little bit bigger than the diameter of this. Whether it's a metal roof or not a metal roof, when you drill that hole, usually we just put a little shot of silicone in it. Here's the hole here. Put a little shot of silicone in it and then tighten down everything. Same thing if it's a metal roof and you're just putting the butyl, we'll actually put a roll of silicone around the hole, shoot a little into it, tighten everything down, and then we'll come back through and silicone around everything. If it's a standing seam metal roof, you have a little bit more homework to do. Well, if you're going with a system, you've got to do a little more research because there's these S5 clips that your seam stands up, this goes right down on it, and then you just tighten an Allen key into the side, or sometimes there's two of them, and by compression, by friction, that just holds against your standing seam, and that's all it is. It doesn't penetrate your roof. And then they come with, I think 9/16 bolts that just tighten your L-foot right down onto them, and that's it. They tend to go relatively quickly because you don't have to find the roof rafters and you just are dictated by the seams. So, stainless steel lag is key because this is anodized aluminum, and if you're using anything else, it'll react with it and cause problems and deteriorate and fall apart. Just so, anything that contacts the aluminum, you want it to be stainless steel. Yes?
My experience with stainless steel screws is that they are weaker than regular like deck screws. So is that similar with the stainless steel lag? Do you have to watch your torque on that?
I've never had one, I don't think we've ever had one break. And sometimes we really crank down on them pretty good with our impact driver. That's
The lags we haven't had break, the mid clips and stuff.
mid clips, yeah. Some of the components of this, if you're over torquing them, they'll actually snap off. Or if you're, some guys we've seen take the impact gun. You know, it's good to have an impact gun and the drill because you drill, and then you have the impact gun right there. You just zip down the lag after you silicone it. But we've seen people with the 7/16 nut just take an impact gun and just burying it down, and it's a little bit rough. Which I mean, we do that on our ground mounts. But you have a little bit more control when you're working off the ground, and you just, you know, you can help the torque a little bit. But some people just think like, it's just like you're almost waiting for the glass to shatter. So, yeah. that was it.
Just go back a few minutes. I think you were talking about a kind of a mount that does not put a hole into the rafter. I'm not sure what you were saying.
That would be if you had a standing seam metal roof, and that would be one of these S5 clips. There's a couple other brands out there, but they go right on the standing seam, and then you tighten it from the side. So that, and then those situations also, we suggest you don't penetrate with your junction box, that you wrap the side of it and go down the side or go into the attic that way, or however seems best for you. So, your rails. We talked about how to set them up, how to align them. You have your feet. Usually what we'll do is we'll align one side of the rails